What's going on, y'all? Philip here. Today I'm going to show you how I make rice wine at home. It's super easy, just need a couple ingredients and some basic items that you might have to go out and buy if you don't have them, but there are definitely substitutes you can use as well. So let's jump right into it. All right, so for the main two ingredients, all you're really gonna need is some sweet rice. I'm using 10 pounds here, two 5-pound bags. And then this you have to go and buy. It's enzyme powder, also called Nuruk. It's the key ingredient here, so it's like a fermented wheat. So I'm using 1 pound of this, 16 ounces. So you want a 10-to-1 ratio. So you can buy this on Amazon, easily look it up right there. So enzyme Nuruk. So 1 pound to 10 pounds here. And then another option, this is not necessary, but is some distiller's yeast. So I'll put a little spoonful of that in there. We'll get into that in a little bit just to help the fermentation process. And some powdered sugar, that'll be for afterwards to sweeten things up. And then the final product eventually will turn into this. A little rice wine, shake it up there, boom. But yeah, so a couple items that are super helpful all over here. So we'll start with this. You need a way to cook the rice. So this is a 4-level steamer. You literally just take the rice, and I take a non-stick pad here and I put it in there. And I do that over 4 levels, put a bunch of water in the bottom and boil it up. You want to cook the rice to the point where it's not too squishy, but it's also opened up a little bit and it's not just a hard little rock anymore. So we'll get to that as we cook it. But there are alternatives for this as well. You don't have to have this exact steamer. You probably have some way to cook rice at your house. And then you are going to need some sort of big tub. It doesn't have to be this. Again, it can be anything just to put it in so it can ferment over a week or two. And then some other helpful things to have are some measuring cups, just various things, little cups as well, some strainers or whatnot. And then some bottles to put it in. You can use whatever you want here, or you can go with like a bigger item like this. Yeah, it's very, very optional. A funnel is super helpful too, to put it in, just like that. And last but not least over here, so some sort of way to strain it is really helpful. So you can get like these on Amazon, just a bag of sorts. These are like cheesecloth type material bags. So after you're all done, you can strain out all the rice and just get the wine in the end and get to this finished product right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the process. So here we go. All right, and as we go through these next few steps, I'll just be doing some voiceovers to make things easy. So here you can see me washing off the rice, just getting it all soaking wet. And you'll see as I start to mix it up here, it does get a bit cloudy, and that's what we're looking to get rid of. Just clean off the rice, make it nice and clean prior to letting it sit and ferment. So yeah, there you go. See how cloudy that water is. So you're going to want to rinse it several times, fill it up with water, mix it around. Not too worried about sanitation at this point, just because we are going to be steaming the rice still. So then that will kill a lot of the germs. Alternatively, you can do it like this also, just with a strainer I have here. As long as the strainer is small enough so that the rice won't get out, it shouldn't be an issue. Another thing you can do that I did not do in this video is let the rice soak overnight, which is honestly very much so preferred, and it'll make the steaming process a lot easier. I cut out a lot of it here, but I did end up steaming for a few hours, which was not super fun. Alright, now prior to steaming, you can just take your Nuruk and pour it into a bowl and add some water to it just to kind of let it sit and make it easier to mix it in later. I also take the spoonful of yeast and I throw it in there just so I don't have to worry about that later. I get this whole little mixture ready to go. And you'll see here, we'll grab some water and mix that in there as well. And just keep in mind how much water you're using, because later on when we go to add water, we will want to keep track. So here I'm using 500 milliliters, so half a liter, with the Nuruk and the yeast, and I'm just mixing it up there. Unlike the rice, this doesn't need to sit overnight. Just during the duration of this steaming is probably fine. Yeah. And again, I'm just trying to break up that Nuruk. Some of it can come very rocky depending on what type of bag you get. It does originally start in pucks. So mine was pretty ground up, but it's nice if it's broken down so it can get evenly mixed as it ferments. You'll see here it's kind of bubbling up. This stuff is alive. There's that bacteria in there and it's becoming activated. That's why later on you'll see we don't want to close the lid on our rice wine or it will not properly ferment. Have to leave room for the gases and everything to escape. So we're just going to set that off to the side now and get back to our rice. So at this point it's all been washed and I have my 4 layers set out. I like to try and do it in one. It's really going to depend on how big your steamer is. So I take my bucket or my thing of water here, my pot, and I just throw the lid on and get it starting to boil because that is going to take some time. And in the meantime, I'm going to take my rice and I'll skip through it here, but I'm just going to spread it around these 4 different levels. And as you'll see, there we go. So got it all evenly spread, nice and easy there. And now I'm going to stack it up on top of the stove. Got the water pretty much ready here, starting to give off some steam. And boom, got all 4 stacked up. So this is the part that can take quite a bit of time. If you're doing this in multiple batches, it can be even more annoying because all of it has to be steamed to the proper point. Here you can see that I have these laid out cheesecloths ready to go. The Nuruk is sitting there to the side, and then I'll have my bucket here and big stirring spoon for when that time comes as well. I want to be able to make sure you can reach the bottom. So if you're using a deep bucket, you are going to need a deep spoon that can accommodate that, and then the measuring cups to measure out the water. So again, the ratios that we're using is 10 to 1 for the Nuruk and the rice, and the water later on here is going to be 1 to 1. Pretty much the only ratios you need. So now we're going to take a peek at the rice. We can see the steam coming out of the top, the big steamer like this. That's what you want to see. That means it's going up through all 4 levels and all the rice is being cooked. You will find with a steamer like this, if you're using a multi-layer one, it is going to cook significantly faster on the bottom. There was Julia right there watching as I cook the rice. So we can see here it is starting to cook. You can see those white spots in there. It means it is not completely done yet. So those are pieces of rice that haven't been cooked yet. So go ahead and set the lid off to the side and take another look in here. Should be pretty much ready at this point, so I'm going to pull off a layer. That one's looking really good. So I think I ended up flipping the layers at one point during this whole process. You can see how thick that is too. So it's really important to make sure it cooked all the way through. There we go. That one's looking really nice. Maybe even a bit too squishy, but that's okay. It will be alright in the end. And this one's looking really well. Just going to set these off to the side. See how our bottom layer is doing here, which was the top originally. I ended up flipping them because the other bottom layer was cooking so much faster. And now at this point you just want to break it up and let it cool. You want to get this down to room temperature. It's still giving off quite a bit of steam. And I did end up throwing the other ones back on there just for a bit more time because there were some white specks. You can see there a couple white specks in there. The uncooked rice, yeah, quite a bit on this one actually there. But it's nothing a little more time can't fix. You can see there on the clock in hours past this point, so we've been cooking for a while. That's why it's really important to soak the rice the night before. Don't be like me and steam for so long. But yeah, this is cooled at this point, so I'm going to take that rice and throw it into the bucket. So that's our first batch here. You can see that's why I'm using such a large bucket here, because this rice, as it cooks, expands quite a lot and will fill up that bucket pretty quickly. And at this point we've put the rest of the rice in there, I believe, and it's all cooled down. Just going to skip that monotonous part. And now we're going to take our Nuruk. You can see we almost have like a fine paste now, and it's looking really good. And as we pour this in here, we're Gonna want to remember that we added 500 milliliters of water, and we have to do a 1-to-1 water to rice ratio. So with that, we're gonna add about 4 more liters of water, and I got that from knowing that 10 pounds of rice was about 4.5 kilograms, and that equals about 4.5 1-to-1 ratio between kilograms and liters, so 4.5 liters. So we added half liter already, so we go in and we add another 4 liters of water. And now you can see it's a bit wetter, it's still pretty dry, and this might be a bit concerning to some people because we are trying to make a liquid rice wine. So you're like, oh my gosh, where is all the rice wine coming from? But you'll see here as this progresses, it will liquefy. So at this point, it is going to have to sit for about 7 to 10 days, just in a cool, dark spot, like a pantry or closet or something. And you can see there, I just set the lid on top lightly. So I don't want any dirt or dust to get inside, but I also want to allow those gases that we talked about earlier to be able to expand and come out. So you can see here it's been 1 day, it's been sitting there. It did expand a little bit towards the top, and you can see I stick my spoon in there. It's still very dry. Part of this is probably also due to the fact that I did not soak the rice for this batch prior to steaming it, so it was a little bit drier than usual. See, if you do soak the rice properly, it will absorb a lot more of that water, and this process will happen a lot faster. But now at this point on day 2, we can see it's a lot more liquidy. And for the first 2 days, it's fine to stir it twice a day. But then after that, after the first like 2 or 3 days, just stirring once a day is fine. And then after the first week, you can completely stop stirring it and just let it progress and ferment. So here, just a close-up look at that. You can almost see the little air bubbles popping as they come out, and then boom, look at that. So there's a huge layer of liquid down there that has expanded from the bottom up towards the top. So at the top we still have this unfermented rice left, not much at this point, but I'll give you another shot from the side that'll show what I'm talking about. So here you can see all that liquid on the bottom, and as it ferments, that rice will kind of fall down there towards the bottom. Yep, and that is exactly what we want to see. That means this is going great. And with that, we want to make sure to stay sanitary throughout this process. We don't want to introduce any other germs or bacteria. If this started to get like green or turn kind of a yucky color or not smell good, like if you go to smell it, it should smell like nice rice wine at this point. So you want to keep all your tools sanitary and all that. So at this point, it has been about 10 days. You can just kind of look on the side there. It's basically at the top. It won't go all the way up to the top, but you can see here it's liquid almost up to the very top. And that is a great sign. We don't want to let it sit forever. If you just let it sit for months, it would turn into vinegar. And we don't want that. We do want to take out this rice wine and enjoy it. So yeah, you can see here it's basically pure liquid. That is what we want to see right there. Awesome. So now we're going to take our cloths and start the straining process. This can be a bit annoying, especially if you have a small bag. So I do recommend getting a larger bag like this. I'll put links in the description for the buckets, the bags, the bottles, all the important stuff that you can get off Amazon. And boom, there we go. As we pour it, it's kind of splattering all over the place, but I don't want to do too much at once because I am going to have to lift this bag and squeeze it out. You'll find as you squeeze it, oh yeah, a lot of it's just going to come out there. Look at that beautiful rice wine. That's awesome. You'll find as you squeeze it, you kind of want to massage it. You don't want to just press it as hard as you can because you got to give some room for the rice to relax and release all the liquid. So find like a little massaging rhythm. You'll get good at it as you go. This does take some time here. But yeah, so at this point we've fast forwarded, squeezed it all out. We got about 8 quarts right there. Really good haul on this one. And I'm gonna go ahead and with that bag there, I just strained it out one more time. You can never strain too many times with this, just making sure we get all that out. And in the bowl to the side here on the left side of the screen, you'll see that was all of our leftover rice. I think there's some treats and stuff you can make with that, but we haven't played around with that yet. So here Julia's helping me out. We're trying to funnel in and get all of this rice wine. We're spilling a little bit here, but yeah, we're getting most of it. So these are 1 liter bottles off of Amazon. They're amazing. Super great for this because they have a lid that you can just latch down on the top, and it contains everything to that bottle. Gives you a nice air and watertight seal. So yeah, going ahead and just pouring these up, filling them. You'll see here we'll end up getting about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bottles, so 7 liters and a little bit extra in the end as well. But yeah, just a few things to talk about as we go here. Yeah, you'll see might need a few different tools here, so smaller funnel ended up doing the trick for us. But yeah, this whole process took about 10 days. It was a lot of fun. We enjoyed it. And you'll see here we are filling up with the direct rice wine that we got from squeezing out the bags. These bottles I would not recommend drinking. So I'll go through that here in a minute. Towards the end I'll show the process. But you are going to want to dilute it down with some water. It is very strong at this point, and also add some sugar. Those ratios you can play around with. We've played around with a couple different ways, and we found that we enjoyed a 1-to-1 ratio of this rice wine and water, and then per every liter we'd put like 1/3 of a cup of sugar. You can go up to 1/2 a cup if that's not enough sugar for you. Totally up to you. But just some powdered sugar, as you'll see here soon, to help it dissolve more easily and get into solution. But yeah, so we have 7 bottles here. This will come out to about just over 7 liters of rice wine. But once you dilute that down with the water and make it so it's more enjoyable to drink, that comes out to over 14, 15 liters of rice wine, which is a ton of rice wine. So you don't have to do 10 pounds by any means. You can just do a 5-pound bag. Even that's still a lot. So whatever sweet rice you end up buying, you can get it in smaller amounts and do a lot less. And then you wouldn't need as big of a bucket either, and you can do a smaller steamer. But we have a lot of people who live with us and have some parties sometimes, so it's nice just to have a lot of rice wine around. You will find if you keep it for too long though, so if you kept it for several months and just let it sit around in the fridge and forgot about it, it might turn a bit sour into a vinegar because it is still alive at this point. While putting it in the fridge does slow down the process, it is still a living thing almost. So at this point here is a 1/2 liter of the rice wine, and I just poured in a 1/2 liter of the water. And I'm taking some sugar here, a little less than a 1/2 cup. You see, pour it in there. It dissolves pretty quickly. Stir it all up here, just like that. Make sure it all gets into solution. And I encourage you to taste it originally before you make these additions. Take note of that taste. And if it's not enjoyable, that's okay. There's some changes you can make here with the water and the sugar, and hopefully it comes out great and you get to enjoy it like we did. So like, comment, subscribe. Thank you.